Okay, let's look at 5B, our mission, the heart of the matter. I don't know that over the whole time that we're going to be in KLMS, I don't know that there's a more important lesson than this one. I think this is the number one issue that undermines pretty much every area of our life. That's somebody. So, let's look at what healthy leadership is, and then we're going to look at something called anxious leadership. And I think you're going to find this to be very, very helpful. So far, we have examined and developed a plan of engagement for reaching the lost. What is going to be the main challenge for us doing that? Now, typically, leadership material focuses on character and competencies. Character is we need to, if we're going to be leading in the church or leading our friends to Christ or being good parents or at the workplace, we need to have a good character. We need to have things like integrity and perseverance, and we need to be kind. These are really important things. And leadership material focuses on character and then competencies. We need certain skill sets, like the ability to plan, to organize a team, to do team building, to have healthy communication, these kinds of skills. As important as these are, we can miss God's main concern, which is our hearts. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Without a good heart, we can use our character and our competencies for selfish reasons. So it's possible to be super skilled and super nice and super selfish. That character and competency doesn't necessarily mean we have a good heart. A good heart is motivated by love. It's that simple. You want to know what a good parent is, or a good boss, or a good small group leader? Is somebody who's leading for the benefit of others. It's that simple. If you lead for the benefit of yourself, either to people please or to control, you'll always be an unhealthy leader. If you lead for the benefit of others, you'll be fine. An unhealthy heart is motivated by selfishness. We all know this to be true. Every boss you've ever had that was a bad boss was selfish somehow, weren't they? Yeah. Bad bosses are selfish. Good bosses are loving and caring and other-centered. It's that simple. But here's the bigger question. What does selfishness feel like? Typically, it feels like anxiety. What is anxiety? Anxiety is the main issue that God addresses in leaders. Look at your notes. Abraham, Moses, Joshua, Gideon, and so on. I did a study on all the leaders in the Bible. And the issue that God addresses in leadership, the heart issue that God addresses inside of leaders, is always fear. Don't be afraid. It is the number one problem as soon as you decide to be a leader. Whether you decide to lead your friends or your family or lead at work, as soon as you try to take responsibility, the number one issue that you're going to struggle with is fear. What's another word for fear? Anxiety. Because I like using the word anxiety because there is a good kind of fear. But the negative kind of fear would be anxiety. So it is the leadership problem. I can almost guarantee that the number one reason why you might struggle to share your faith, you might struggle to lead a small group, use your gifts, I bet you if we listened long enough, the primary reason why you struggle to love and lead others is because of your fears and anxiety. What will other people say about me? I might fail. I don't want to look stupid. I don't think I'm good enough. What if I get rejected? These are all fears. And these fears are forms of anxiety. It is the issue that we need to look at. So, what is anxiety? Anxiety is faithless concern. I love this definition of anxiety because anxiety is concern. And that concern can even be genuine. I deeply care about my children. I love my children. I'm concerned for them. But when our concern isn't washed with faith, it just becomes anxiety. Are my kids going to grow up to be drug dealers? Are they going to, I'm worried, are they, they're not learning how to read and they're already 3 years old. And, oh no, what's going to happen? Like, it's concern, but there's no faith in it. There's no trust in God in those moments. So, what anxiety is not is a stressful situation. A stressful situation is called life. That is not anxiety, that's stress. Stress is circumstantial. Anxiety is what goes on inside of our hearts. Mark 8 is an example of this. Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? This is when they were in the boat and the waves were crashing in. They were in a stressful circumstance that made them anxious, and their fear is the opposite of faith. So anxiety is faithless concern. You're worried about something, but there's no faith in it. I like this quote. Anxiety is a thin stream of fear trickling through the mind. If encouraged, it cuts a channel into which all other thoughts are drained. Isn't that a powerful quote? To which all other thoughts are drained. So, anxiety is what it feels like to trust self over God. Anxiety is what it feels like to trust self over God. Matthew 6 talks about worry, but that's what's going on, is we're trusting in self over God. I don't think you're going to take care of me. I don't think you can handle this circumstance. Therefore, it's all up to me. And maybe I don't even feel like I can, so now I've got to blame others. It's a self-centered interpretation of a situation. The first sin reveals a typical pattern. Did God really say? That's mistrust. You will be like God, trust yourself instead. And then I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. Anxiety and fear and alienation naturally result. Okay, do you follow the logic? If I don't trust God, then I've got to trust in myself. And I know I'm not great enough, so that makes me anxious. Mistrust God, trust in self, the result is anxiety. And that anxiety will either look like control or withdrawal, alienation, isolation. It goes in one of those two directions. So that's what anxiety is faithless concern. Concern, but it's not informed by faith and trusting in God. Anxiety is a primary emotion. Very helpful thing to understand, which gives rise to secondary emotions, such as anger, depression, confusion, and shame. I found this tremendously helpful. If you can think of a tree, I'm going to speak like a flowery psychologist, and think of a tree that has all of your emotions, okay? And each branch is another emotion, all right? Are we in touch? Do we feel connected? So we have an emotion tree. What gives rise to all negative emotions is fear. And when fear manifests itself, anxiety, when it manifests itself, it looks like anger or depression or confusion, shame. That's what anxiety looks like. This is why if you tell somebody who has an anger problem and you tell them to stop being angry, it just makes them more angry. Because anger is a secondary emotion, not a primary emotion. So if you try to fix the anger, it's like in the emotion tree, you cut off the branch of anger, but there's still the fear and anxiety driving this, so it's just going to sprout another branch. Unless we can deal with the fear and anxiety, the root, then anger is going to keep manifesting itself. Same with something like shame, where I'm afraid of being rejected. Well, unless we can address the fear and deal with that through Christ, we're going to keep having problems. Depression. What's depression? I'm out of control and so is God. I have nothing to hang on to. That's anxiety. And as we deal with the anxiety, trusting in who God is, then we no longer have to manifest depression. Now, there is such a thing as chemical depression. But I'm not talking about that, where there's an imbalance inside of our brains. But it's so helpful, instead of trying to fix the symptoms, to go back to the root, which is exactly what we see God doing when he addresses these leaders. Go back to the root of anxiety, deal with the anxiety, and the anger, depression, or confusion or shame is going to take care of itself. So rather than manage our secondary feelings, which are symptoms, it is better to trace our feelings to their source again, and ask, who am I trusting right now? Am I trusting in myself? Am I trusting in other people to save me? Am I trusting in my situation or God? What we need to do is we need to order our fears and trust God. Let him define us above all other things. Thirdly, I guess, so we said that anxiety is faithless concern. Anxiety is a primary emotion, and anxiety is a choice. Now, this might be hard for you to believe, but circumstances do not make us feel anxious. Peace, I love this quote, peace is a state of mind, not a set of circumstances. Isn't that outstanding? Peace is a state of mind, not a set of circumstances. So, some people will say, you made me angry. No, how you interpreted what they said made you angry. But they could say those same words to somebody else, and that other person might think it's funny. Or go, wow, they have a problem. I don't know what their problem is. But we heard it in a way that made us afraid of being rejected, of being accused, of being betrayed or blamed, or whatever it is we got afraid of. And then we reacted out of our anxiety, and it put us in a negative place. So, circumstances don't make us feel something. Anxiety is a choice. In this difficult moment, I'm choosing to mistrust God and to make it all about me or my circumstances. And as soon as I do that, well, of course I'm going to get anxious, because there's no way I can control this moment, or somebody else can. There's no way I can fix the circumstances. I'm not that good. And so the natural result is anxiety. Stress is about circumstances. Anxiety is vague. So if you're just anxious, it probably means, if you just have a vague feeling, it probably means it's anxiety and not just stress. Because you can fix stress. You can just remove yourself from a circumstance. Anxiety is more vague than that. All right, what are some signs of anxiety? This is tremendously helpful. I remember when I was first studying this, I thought, well, this is really interesting for some people, but I'm not really a very anxious person. I'm not really like that. I don't get, angry or freaked out, or I don't feel very manipulative. Like I had a picture of what anxiety looked like, and I wasn't like that. So I thought, oh, this should be for other people. Well, let me help you to see how maybe anxiety applies to you. Signs of anxiety. Number one is we take things personally. So, that somebody cooks a meal, you go, where'd you buy the meat? What, you don't like it? No, I just wanted the name of a store. That's all I was asking, is the name of a... But immediately we take it personally. What are you trying to say? That's anxiety. Can you see that? What you don't like me? No, it's the food. It's just the name of the store. It's not about anything else. We get easily hurt, defensive, and self-protect. We get easily hurt, that's defensive, and we self-protect. Number two is we stop thinking, learning, or caring, and we react to others instead of respond to God. Have you ever heard kids argue? It's stupid. Like, you're ugly. No, you're ugly. No, you're super ugly. Well, you're like it's just, they're not thinking. They're just trying to win an argument. It's anxiety. You listen, I do marriage counseling, and I listen to a couple argue. And it's embarrassing what they argue about. Because the issue is never the issue. It's just anxiety. They feel the other person feels dangerous to them, so they protect themselves. But they don't want to look like they are, so then they just make up reasons to not trust them. It's just anxiety. It's not, nobody's thinking about what's really going on here, or what's really best to do right now. No, I'm hurt, I'm defensive, and I'm going to self-protect. That's anxiety. There's no logic in it. Anxiety is uncontrolled, non-thinking, automatic, and survival. I'm just surviving the moment. I'm anxious. I know what I need to do. I need to eat more. Well, really? That's an anxious response. Oh, I need to go out for a jog. Really? Is that going to solve things, or are you just escaping? We're not thinking, we're just reacting. C, it looks serious, black and white, labeling and rule-oriented. Anxiety is rigid. There's not flexibility in it. It's always serious. You can go, if you go into some homes and there's no laughter, you can tell that anxiety is filling that home. There's nothing funny. Because somebody says something, you go, what are you trying to say? Well, that's rude. I'd never say that. And then they fight. Nothing can be funny. There is a lack of joy, flexibility, transparency, forgiveness, adventure, and creativity. Everything's serious and it's black and white. Are you in or are you out? Are you following Jesus or are you not? Just make a decision. That's all I want to know. It's anxiety. It's anxiety. Nobody's that simple. Everybody's gray. It's what anxiety says. I remember talking about humor as a sign. I can get anxious, but I can give you a positive. Our son Toby has two pastimes, has two hobbies in life. Well, he's getting better, but let's say a few years ago he had two hobbies in life: snowboarding and seeing if he can make his mother angry. Those were his two, and I'm not sure which one he enjoyed more at any given point in time, but he wanted to see if he could get a rise out of Debbie. I don't know if he did it on purpose, but it sure did look that way. So what he would do is, Debbie has a German background, and so Toby will come home from school, and he says, "Mom, I've got a great idea." "What, Toby? What's your great idea?" "I want to tattoo a swastika on my cheeks." That'll be the day some son of mine, pastor's kids, and he goes, "What? It was just it's honoring your heritage," or something stupid he'll say, "That's not my heritage. Not all Germans are like," and then we just, it's just, and so he's just going for it, and they're just, arguing. So fortunately I took my course. And so I remember listening to this, and I go, "Hey, Toby." He goes, "What?" I go, "Why don't you get a swastika tattooed on all four cheeks?" And then he thinks this is really funny, and it's over. He just wanted to see if he could get a rise. And as soon as I think it's funny, he stops arguing. He's a good one, Dad. And he's done. Isn't that interesting? Humor. Yeah, no, that's not interesting. That's not funny at all. And serious. A rebellious son. I remember, I think I said this in a sermon a few weeks ago, but when Toby was really young, he had a lisp. And so he always wanted to play on the dark side. On the dark side. And it's a Star Wars thing. He was really into Star Wars. And we go, "Oh no, our 3-year-old son wants to play in the darkness where there's evil, and oh great." And he's adopted, so there must be something wrong with that. And then we go into childhood issues, and because he wants to play in the dark side. And so finally we asked him, I says, "Toby, what's the dark side?" He says, "I want to play with the lights off." But my anxiety made it, he loves evil more than good. Does he really believe in Jesus? No, he just likes the lights off because it's fun. But anxiety, it's funny. So, it looks serious and black and white, labeling, rule-oriented. D, we under or over function. Anxiety looks like not one of these, but both of these. We under or over function. We disengage or control. Disengage, under function, looks like withdrawing, ignoring, excusing. Oh, they didn't really mean to. It's okay. No, please, can we just be happy? Just downplaying it, making excuses. Apologize. I'm sorry. Did I do something wrong? Even though they're being a jerk. You say, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'll try better. I'm just, can we be friends again? Anxiety. And we shrink our world. Fewer and fewer friends. We don't go out as much. We don't speak transparently. We're withdrawing. Paralysis. We just don't even want to try sharing our faith because we don't want to be embarrassed. That's withdrawal. Or it looks like control, where we rescue. Here, let me help you. Can you, I have a really good idea, and we're over-functioning. We're talking really, really fast. We're thinking we have all the answers. Here, can we just try this? Or maybe this won't work. How about this? And it's just anxiety. We attack. I don't like you. And I think you've been very disrespectful and rude toward me, and I think you should apologize. And besides that, you're ugly. Like you're pushing it, you're attacking. You enmesh, where you can't be doing well unless they're doing well. You're not an individual. You blame. Well, it's not my fault, it's their fault. It wasn't mine. And you throw somebody under the bus and feel better about yourself. You feel ashamed. You worry. What if they grow up to be alcoholics? Oh, that's true. I've never thought of that. Oh, that's true. And we do drink alcohol in our home. And then we just worry. We just worry about things. If you put your mind to it, you can worry all day long. Some people play sports, other people worry. It takes just as much time. It looks like panic. So there's paralysis or panic. Poor parenting swings between both of these, where we ignore, and then hit our children. Ignore, explode. It's a horrible form of parenting, where we're either violent or we're ignoring them. There's a better way to behave. A potential or perceived threat sends us into paralysis or panic. And so psychologists talk about fight, flight, or freeze. This is what anxiety looks like. Are you beginning to feel anxious? I think you probably fit some of these things. E, we focus on blame or quick fixes through changing our circumstances or other people's behavior to find relief instead of solutions. So we change our circumstances. I don't like this church. They make me uncomfortable there. I'm going to go to another church. That's anxiety. I'm going to change my situation. I don't like where I'm living. I don't like my friends. I don't like my job. I need to quit. That's what I need to do. Because they make me uncomfortable. It's a stressful situation. We get anxious about it. And we think that simply changing our, doing a quick fix will give a long-term benefit. The problem is the next job you go to makes you just as anxious because you haven't learned how to work through your heart issues. Or your next marriage, or whatever it would be. Here's an interesting thought. You can write this down. Fault finding does not equal solutions. Just because you figured out how to blame somebody doesn't mean that it's a solution. Fault finding does not equal solutions. Anxious people look for who to blame. Non-anxious people look for how to solve the problem. I don't know whose fault it is, but what can we do? Now, there's a difference between who's to blame and what a solution is. Our sin is our fault. But who's the solution? Jesus Christ. He's not at fault, but he's the solution. So just because you can figure out who to blame doesn't mean you're any closer to a solution. Anxiety wants to blame. It's your fault. No, it's my fault. Oh, I'm a horrible person. Bad person. Is that really helpful? It's anxiety. It's just fear and shame Doesn't help anybody. No, I am bad. Oh, no, you're really good. No, I'm really, really bad. Tell me again how good I am. Oh, you're really good. No, no, I'm bad. Tell me one more time. It's just anxiety. Solutions are, okay, yeah, this isn't good. What are we going to do about it? Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do, great. Now we have a solution. It's different. In this way, today's solutions are tomorrow's problems. Let me give you an example of this. You're a kid, you take out your child, and they're screaming in the mall. They're screaming. And so what do you say to your child? I'll give you a lollipop if you stop screaming. Today's solution is tomorrow's problem. Because now the little girl or boy is going to say, hold on here. If I scream, I get a lollipop. This could work well for me. I think I'm going to scream right now. Because I feel like I want a lollipop. But if you have an anxious solution, you're usually creating more problems. But if you think, which is the opposite of anxiety, you go, this might solve the moment, but I'm actually going to be creating a monster here. Maybe I need to have a better response. And I think, slow down the moment, and have a non-anxious response. It'll be better. And finally, anxious leaders focus on more expertise, effort, or empathy. I think I do all of those. Anxious leaders focus on more expertise. I need to read more. I need to have better techniques. I need to be more outgoing. Expertise. I live in a deep fear that I haven't read enough. I got to read more. I got to know more. There's more. Oh, I know there's more. And I haven't read it yet. Oh, what are you reading? Oh, it's like I haven't read that one. It's anxiety. It's anxiety. I got to know more. Pastors are addicted to knowledge because they're so anxious. They're always reading. Part of it's good, part of it's not good. Effort. I need to work harder. I'm working 50 hours a week. I need to work 80. I need to work 90. I got to work harder. If I would work harder, it would get better. That's what it is. I've got to work harder. That's anxiety. Or empathy. Can't we all just get along? Look, let's just, I'll be a better pastor. I promise I will. I'll be a better small group leader. I really will. Could we just get along, though? Is there anything that I can do for you? Instead of saying, actually, you're inappropriate. It's not right what you're doing. That takes courage to say that. But fearful leaders are always compromising, always trying to get everybody to get along together. So what we do is we enlist allies, including our kids. We say to our kids, I'm glad you're not like Sally. You're the good kid. You know, your dad is just never at home. I'm glad that we have a good relationship. That's enlisting allies into your side out of anxiety. It's horrible parenting. Horrible. Or you go to your small group, say, what should we do about so-and-so? Do you see how disruptive he is? I'm not even sure he's a Christian. But I can lean on you. You're great. That's horrible leadership. Drawing people into your side so that you'll feel better about yourself. It's anxiety. Anxiety fuels a cycle of self-centeredness. People typically respond in like kind. So I think that everybody has seen this, which you haven't. Can you come up here for a sec? If you don't mind. Okay, can you give me your hand? I'm going to go like this. Can you give me your hand? Okay. Okay, what are you doing?
I'm pushing.
Did I ask you to push?
No. Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But everybody does. Please, you have a seat.
Oh.
Everybody pushes. Okay, I create my enemies. Yeah. I create resistance. How did I make you resist me? By pushing against you. And the natural response is when somebody pushes, you push back. So now, come again. Sorry, I should have had you stay standing up here. So now push against me. And if I don't resist, now where is she?
Closer.
She's closer to me. But if I push, now we're enemies. But if I let you push, because you're mad at me, and I go, yeah, you're right, good point, now she's closer to me. So I create an enemy by pushing. You create your enemies. Thank you. Isn't that interesting? We create our enemies by pushing. In the way that when you're anxious, you have to defend yourself. No, I'm not. I've never done that. Okay, I did it once, but I didn't mean to. You're pushing. And then they have to push to defend their side. And the more self-centered you become, the more self-centered they have to become. And now we have a war. It's immaturity and it's anxiety. We see this in we see this among nations. It's just immature. It's anxiety. So we often create our enemies. Now sometimes there are legitimate enemies, but often we're creating them. So let me just tell you a story. I was mountain biking. I usually go with somebody, but this time I couldn't find anybody to go with, so I'm biking up the hill. And I'm old, so I go relatively slowly. And so then some young guy pedals up beside me. And he's an outgoing guy. So we begin to have a conversation. We're pedaling up the hill. We have a conversation. And I say, why are you here? He says, I'm here for the mountain biking. I go, oh, you must be a nice guy. And he laughs. Because that's why you would come to Vancouver for mountain biking. And so we're talking. I go, what do you do for a living? He says, oh, I'm in the film industry. And I just moved here so I could mountain bike. He goes, well, what do you do? I go, oh, I'm a pastor. I go, tell me, what is your experience of the church? And he says, don't get me started. But I did. And so he goes on, we're pedaling up the hill, he goes on for a good 15 minutes about all that's wrong with the church. I don't know if you know it, but it's our fault for AIDS in Africa. And it just goes on from there. Like, it's all our fault. And so he goes off, blames the church for everything. And so he's pushing. He's pushing against me. He's resisting Christianity. And so he says to me, man, I went off there for a bit. Sorry about that. I go, man, you don't know the half of it. We're way more messed up than you could ever imagine. And so then I go off in the church for about 5 or 10 minutes. And I say, I'm in the church. I know we're way more screwed up than you could ever imagine. And then I said, the people who have hurt me most have been Christians. And this is what it's like being inside the church. It's messed up. So he pushes, and I agree. Now he's closer. And so then, you know what he says? He says, well, to be honest with you, Christians are also the best people that I've ever met. Now, would he have ever said that? If I said, we really are good people, really, we are, like, we give to stuff, and I'm nice, see? And like if I pushed, he would have never, I created humility, and he could respond in humility. But if I push, I just create an enemy. Now, can you imagine how you do evangelism? Christians are really good people, and you're a non-Christian. Oh, you're a sinner. You're bad and I'm good. And maybe you should be as good as me, which is judgmental and opinionated like I am right now. Why would I ever want to become like you? You're horrible. And why are you putting me down like this? Often, in evangelism, we create our enemies. We create opposition. One of the things that I've discovered in doing evangelism is I tell non-Christians my problems. I go, they say, how you doing? I go, it's not been good. We have 4 million children living with us. It's been hard. And it's really put a strain on our marriage. It's hard these days. And you know what they say? You too? And then they tell me their problems. Now, I don't believe that they're going to give me a solution that's found in Christ. I'm not looking to them for that. But I model transparency. I'm not the hero of the story. I loved how you said it. Jesus is the hero of the story. I'm as messed up as you are. I just have a better solution than you do. I'm not better than you in any way. I have no illusion of that. I don't even have to defend myself. The Holy Spirit will bring conviction. I'm just going to be present, vulnerable, so that you'll be vulnerable and realize your need of Christ. And then you'll say, oh yeah, my wife, she's, and then they go off, which is not at all what my wife is like, but I go, wow, that's really sad. And I go, well, what are you going to do about that? They go, I don't know, what do you do? And I share my story. I listen to their story, and now I share my story. Well, this is how Jesus helps me. Interesting. You see how I'm sharing my faith in a non-anxious way. I'm not having to prove anything, defend anything. I'm transparent. I create space. I don't push. I create space for them to be transparent. They tell me their story. I tell them my story. I'm sharing my faith. But I'm not creating an enemy in sharing my faith. So I have, this happens to me frequently. A guy I was just meeting with a while ago. He grew up in the church, got burnt by the church, doesn't like the church. He says, but I like meeting with you. I go, man, I like meeting with you too. I find you a fascinating person, super interesting. I really enjoy our friendship. He goes, I enjoy our friendship too. When can we do this again? And I'm the enemy, right? I'm a pastor, like the worst of all, And but I didn't push. I'm not pushing because I'm not anxious. I've got nothing to prove. I don't need you to go to heaven for me. I can be present just for you. I'm already in. I got nothing to prove. I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. I don't need you to respond to me so I can get to heaven. I'm already in. I'm fine. I'm doing fine. I can just be here for you. This is non-anxious evangelism. Doesn't that sound like good news? So non-anxious leadership. We're almost done. So that's anxiety. Any of you here, can you identify with any of this yet? Just a little bit. Okay, non-anxious leadership. Here's a great saying. The problem is seldom the problem. Our anxious reaction is the problem. What if your son told you, I'm gay? What are you going to do with that? I don't think that problem is the problem. I think your anxiety is going to be the problem. I thought you were a Christian. I thought you loved God. I thought you were my son. And then now you've made it all about you and you can't be present for the other person. It's just anxiety. You just created an enemy. You know what the Bible says about homosexuals? They're going to go to hell. Well, it also says that liars won't inherit the kingdom of God either. How are you doing with that? Well, we don't mention the liar. We just mention the gay guy. Super arbitrary and judgmental. So here's what's helpful for you to know, whether you're in a discipleship group, in a discussion group, whether you're at work, whatever people bring up as an issue is seldom the issue. Our anxious reaction is the issue. And if we can respond in a non-anxious way, even people's criticism of us or the church will be a road to them trusting Jesus. But if we're anxious, we're going to shut it all down. I mean, people tell me this all the time. They say, I'm going to tell you something I haven't told anybody else before. And if my response is, what? I've never heard. That's bad. You're bad. That's horrible. How's that? That's not going to go super well, right? We're safe. And the reason why we're safe is because we're not anxious. We're trusting in Jesus in the moment. And I know I'm as worse a sinner as anybody else is. I can tell you stories of what I've done in my past that I'm embarrassed about. And I have the potential to do all evil. I am not the hero of my story. Jesus is. And so, if I'm humble, that gives space for you to be humble. And together, we can figure out how to find Jesus so that he can be the hero. It's just easier. But the issue isn't clever comebacks. It isn't being super smart. It's learning how to take your pulse and to go, am I being anxious right now? And if you can learn how to take your pulse and choose to be non-anxious instead, I guarantee you your whole life is going to change. So God invites us to live in response to him instead of in reaction to others. Most people live in reaction to others. My husband hates me. My children are horrible. My boss never liked me. I'm reacting. I was telling somebody just, I don't know, a couple days ago. They go, I'm going to quit my work. I go, why? Because they don't like me and I don't like them. They said, well, what do they say about you? They say, I'm not very friendly. I go, well, are you very friendly? They go, no. Well, I guess they're right. Why aren't you friendly? Because I just don't like them. And so I tell them, I says, I learned a long time ago, one of my mentors told me that people, how do I say this quickly? People will like you if you like them. Isn't that a great statement? Do you know who likes you? Is people who think you like them. That's who likes you. This is super helpful. So, I'll strike up a friendship with somebody, and I'll genuinely like them. And you know what they'll say behind my back? They go, I like Greg. He's a good guy. Because I like them. That's all that's going on. And so I just choose to like them first. So I says, what if you started to like those that you were working with? What if you liked them? Oh, I can't like them. Oh, I didn't know that Jesus was that limited. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. And I laugh. I'm not trying to lay a guilt trip. I go, no, really. I bet you God can give you the insight that would give you compassion toward the non-Christians that you work with. I bet you that's true. They go, you're right, I can. And you start to like them and watch what's going to happen. They're going to start liking you. See, it's not being anxious, not condemning them. I think it's kind of funny. We're just working it through together. Philippians 4, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Isn't that outstanding? What's the opposite of anxiety? Prayer. Trusting God in the moment. Isaiah 41:10, do not fear, for I'm with you. Do not look anxiously about, for I'm your God. Isn't that great, anxiously about? Can't you picture that? Ah! I will strengthen you. Surely I will help you. Surely I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. In this way, and these are the two big words, non-anxious leaders are present and peaceful. These are the two big words of what non-anxiety looks like. We stay present instead of withdraw. Remember we said what anxiety looks like? It's either withdrawal or control. So instead of withdrawing, we stay present. But instead of controlling, we're peaceful. In this way, we neither overfunction nor underfunction. So sometimes my kids will be arguing downstairs. I'm upstairs working, and I hear them. They're not being nice to one another. So I'll come downstairs, and I'll walk into the room, and I'll smile at them. I just smile, and they'll look at me. I just smile at them. And then I go back upstairs. I'm done. I didn't have to say, would you stop? I can't believe, really? Really? This is how you're going to behave to your sibling? And this is how you fight back? Is this right? Does Jesus want this? I don't do any of that. I don't have to do any of that. I'm present and I'm peaceful. I'm present and peaceful. And what we end up doing is we control the environment when we're present and peaceful. Let me just close with this. So can you imagine, I know I'm out of touch, but I used to watch basketball when Michael Jordan played, all right? So I know it's been a few years, but, you know, LeBron James, he's just not doing it for me. So, or whoever it is. But I remember Michael Jordan. All right, so can you imagine, when Michael Jordan played, it's always the last 5 seconds of the game or whatever. It all happens then. I don't know why they play for an hour, because it only matters the last 5 seconds. So can you imagine Michael Jordan in the last, they do a timeout, and Michael Jordan says, guys, come in here. He says, this isn't going to go well. I'm not feeling it tonight. And you haven't hit a three-pointer for decades. And you've been missing everything. And they're big. Have you noticed how big they are? And I feel weak. I've had an upset stomach all day. I don't think we can do this. Is that leadership? That's not leadership. Leadership says, look, we got this. We got this. This is what I want you to do. I want you're gonna do this. You're gonna run this pick. You're gonna do this. You're gonna do this. Get me the ball. We're gonna do this right now. You ready? Here we go. That's leadership. I'm present and I'm peaceful. I'm not. I don't write myself out of the script, which is what most men do. Most for anxiety in men, it will sometimes look like anger. Most of the time, it looks like withdrawal. I have to be present in the moment, but I have a new response to the stressful situation. And it's the peace of the Lord Jesus. Trusting that He's in control and that I don't have to be. That's leadership. Do you know who's leading in any given moment? Whoever's present and peaceful. That's true leadership. Everybody else is messing it up. All right. Hence, do not be afraid is Jesus' most common command. This enables us to be fearless, where we order our fears. We fear God, which reduces our anxiety of all the lesser fears. We are a non-anxious presence, making faith-filled, love-filled choices. Instead of a cycle of selfish anxiety, you demand, they resist, we start a cycle of peace. You give trust-filled love, they respond in like kind. So, can we learn how to take our temperature, take our pulse, and say, am I being peace? Am I anxious right now? Am I thinking black and white? Am I just worrying? Am I blaming? Am I over-functioning or under-functioning? I'm anxious. So that means that I'm mistrusting God. What does trust look like? It looks like being present and peaceful. I'm in this moment and I'm peaceful because I'm presenting all my requests to God, trusting that He's in control, even if I'm not. Then I can slow down the moment, think, and respond the way Jesus would want me to respond. That is leadership. And if you get anything out of Kingdom Life Ministry School, understand how to move out of anxiety into fearless leadership. It's going to change your life in pretty much any area of your life. Let's take a break.